my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So it's not often that I do a book tag, but there are a few staples throughout the year that I always like to do because they're some of my favorite videos to watch. So of course I have to do the end of the year book tag, which was originally created by Erin, and I will leave a link to that video down below. And I'm also going to put together a playlist or just link a few videos of people who I follow and love who have done this video already this year, because they're starting to trickle in, because really the title of this tag is a bit deceiving because it's more about preparing for the end of the year. So we have 3 months left in the year at this point, and to start thinking about how you want to end your year of reading, even starting to think about 2024 reading. So it's a really good tag that makes you reflect on your year of reading so far, maybe make some changes and adjustments and look at your goals or what you said you were going to read at the beginning of the year, and to see how poorly you were doing, because that is what happened to me here. But it's just a fun little tag that I look forward to doing every single year. The first question is, are there any books that you started this year that you still need to finish? And actually I have 4 of them, which is odd for me. Normally I will finish a book or I will hard DNF it. And all of these books are not even books that I say I soft DNF, because I don't think it was really intentional. There was nothing wrong with these books. I actually think they all have potential to become favorites for me. But things came up, readathons came up, and I have different reasons for why I put them down. So we will just run through them. And 2 I don't own. The first one is Fear the Flame. And this is one that I started for Tori's book club in August. And the thing with this is there's no audiobook. I have the ebook out from Kindle Unlimited, and I am somebody who just goes through phases when it comes to my Kindle. There are times where I can't put my Kindle down. It's all I want to do is read off my Kindle. And then there are times where I'm just like adverse to it, where I just can't get through a book on my Kindle, and I can't explain why that is, and that is what is happening to me right now. It's nothing to do with Fear the Flames at all. It's just I'm preferring audiobooks and physical reading at the moment. But I know the second that I am back in the mood for my Kindle, Fear the Flame is the book that I am going to pick up because I'm loving it. The next one is The Jasad Heir, and the thing with this one is that I was listening to it on audiobook, and there's so much going on. There's a lot of great world building and characters and stuff that I'm not familiar with, and I feel like I want a map. Is there a map for this book? I just feel like I need the visuals. So this is probably a book that it will be best for me to immersion read. Sometimes with fantasy, to just listen on audio is too difficult for me, so I still haven't tracked down a physical copy, but I really want to because I loved the basic setup that I got to. Like, I realized pretty early on in this audiobook that I needed a physical copy. It is based on Egyptian mythology, and I've been recommended it. I've heard some really great things about it. So it is one I want to get to once I can track down a physical copy, or if I treat myself to a physical copy or put it on my wish list for Christmas or something. It's going to happen because I just think it is going to be fantastic. Moving on to the 2 that I own, and this is so shameful because I actually think that this book has the potential to become my favorite book of all time. Like my favorite book of the year. So many people read this last year, even though it's an older book, and loved it. It's been recommended to me personally so many times. The vibes are perfect for me, and that is Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. This is something that I was loving. How far did I get? I'm 100 pages into this, and then I think I must have been reading this in May. And then Once Upon a Readathon came up, and I was the host of Team Gin, so I had to read books featuring gin, which this does not. So I put this down, and I've been thinking about it ever since, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking that this would be a perfect book to read in November before I'm in the mood for Christmassy books. I feel like this is a good transitional book, so this will work for another question in this tag as well, but I just have a good feeling about it, and I'm probably doing that thing where I know it's going to be a favorite, so I'm putting it off. I know we all do that for some silly reason that probably needs to be analyzed. So yeah, so the 4 that I still need to read, this is the one I think needs to happen the most. This is Miss Percy's Travel Guide to Welsh Moors and Feral Dragons by Quenby Olson. This is the 2nd book in this series. I really loved the first one. I read all the Spiffbo finalists last year, and it was by far my favorite, and I am 137 pages into this. I was reading it in August, and I just think in August I was in the mood for something completely different. I wasn't ready to fully embrace cozy fantasy yet. To me, that is more of a fall thing, even though I do love it all year round. It just wasn't hitting the way that I wanted it to. This is very slice of life, super cozy, about this woman who is described as being more of a wallflower, and we see her coming out of her shell kind of falling in love slowly. She inherits a dragon's egg and it hatches in the first one, so the dragon's a little bit older in this story, and yeah, it's really sweet. I do think I'm going to love this once I'm in the right mood for it. So I want to do this book justice, read it at the right time, considering how much I loved book one. The next question is, do you have a autumnal book to transition in to the end of the year? And as I said, I think Daughter of the Forest is perfect for that. But I do have two more, and they're both Fairy Loot editions, special editions that I am just desperate to finally get to. The first one is One Dark Window, and I actually put the reverse dust jacket on this recently just because I want to see if I like that. I do like this dust jacket. This is by Rachel Gillig. I see a lot of people talking about this book again. The sequel comes out in October, though I think that this is gothic. It does have a gothic vibe to it. I still get the vibe that it's a perfect book to read at the beginning of November, transitioning from the fall to winter season. And I think I can say the same thing for Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I know Adrienne Young is an author so many people adore. I have yet to read anything by her. Her second adult book, I think, just came out or is coming out in October, The Unmaking of June Farrow. So I want to get to this one first. I love the edges on this. They look like fireworks. I think that this one is sort of a murder mystery with a love story. And it's supposed to be pretty atmospheric and very light on the fantasy. Some people say there's almost no fantasy there, but I don't know what it is. Just both of these are giving me that transitional vibe, so I'm just going to assume that that is correct. Is there a new release that you're still waiting for? I mean, of course there is. I do my most anticipated book releases every month on this channel. I am constantly looking for new releases to talk about, though I will say November and December are slower publishing months, which just makes sense. I have a ton of books I'm looking forward to coming out in October. I will link that video down below for you. So these are only going to be November and December releases. Obviously the first one is Bookshops and Bone Dust. I've already read it. I'm just excited for everybody else to read it and to have a physical copy for my shelves. So I'm sure that's going to be a lot of people's answers, but it just makes sense. This Cursed Light by Emily Thied. You know that if you've been around the channel for a while now, that This Vicious Grace is one of my favorite books ever, one of my best books of last year. Definitely one of my favorite YA fantasies, and This Cursed Light is the sequel to that, but it was supposed to come out in June, I believe, and then was pushed back, which I fully support. I love that the author felt like she needed more time to really do the story justice. I will take it. I will wait as long as I have to for this author to be able to tell the story they want to be told, and I love these characters so much. I'm willing to wait, but it's been a long wait for me, even though it's just been like a year and a half or something. It just feels long because I was expecting it earlier. And the first book has the bodyguard trope and her touch kills trope, but there's a lot of great politics in here, a lot of great found family and side characters. It all takes place on an island. I thought the fantasy was really interesting and different, so yes, I cannot wait for that. I'm definitely gonna be rereading this before that sequel comes out. That is how much I love this book, because I'm not much of a rereader, as you know. I'm noticing that all of these are sequels, and apparently I'm all about the sequels right now. The next one is obviously Systems Collapse by Martha Wells. I am so excited that I finally caught up with the Murderbot Diaries series this year. Loved it. I put off the full-length novel for so long because I thought it would be too much Murderbot. I wasn't sure if that character could handle a full-length novel, which is kind of silly because it's my favorite in the series. So I'm so excited that System Collapse is also a full-length novel. So the more Murderbot, the better is my philosophy at this point. And the last one is War Widow, which is the sequel to Blood Scion by Deborah Fillet. This is another Fairy Loot edition. And this might be the most brutal YA fantasy that I have ever read. This author is not afraid to go there. This is very harrowing and heartbreaking and brutal. The ending of this, my jaw was on the floor. I did not see anything that happened in the last 25% coming. I've been thinking about it ever since, so I'm so excited to get the sequel. I know I'm gonna have to prepare myself mentally for it because it's a lot, but trust me, I think this author handles these topics really well, and it's worth reading. I don't know that the series gets the love that it deserves. The next question is, what are 3 books I want to read before the end of the year? And this first one is Shameful. Again, the first book was one of my favorite books of 2022. I have put this sequel on too many TBRs at this point and haven't picked it up, avoiding it because I know I'm gonna love it. Now, as time goes on, I probably think I should wait until the release date of the third one, but I just want to get to it, and that is The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. I adore Tasha Suri. I loved everything that she did in this first book. I think it was a really unique fantasy. It's also sapphic, and I loved these characters. It's slow burn, lots of world building, slow character development, but it's worth it, and I just can't wait to see what she does with these characters and this story. In this one, I know some people have said this one's even better, which I have a hard time believing because the first one was so good, but I'm excited to get to it. And I've said this so many times, it just needs to happen. I have to be in the mood for it because I want to, again, just like with the Miss Percy's book, I just want to give this book the attention that it deserves because I just know it's going to be a favorite. It's just on the longer side and haven't been in the mood for this kind of high fantasy in a minute, but I'm hoping that that will happen. I feel like that's more of a winter thing for me, so maybe the end of November I will finally pick this up, but yes, definitely high priority. A book that I just bought recently is Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel, and I actually just saw that this author has a new book coming out in 2024. I'm going to put up the cover here, so I want to get to this one before that one comes out. And I just, again, I feel like this is a good transitional book. I don't know what November my mind is. It is more transitional, and then by the end I start reading like holiday romances, but this is something I just think screams November for me. Another one that's been personally recommended to me numerous times. I said I wanted mythology that wasn't Greek inspired, something a little bit different, and this is the one that I was recommended the most in the comments from you all, so I really appreciate that. I do have a feeling that this is going to become an instant favorite for me. And lastly, I want to put something a little lighter and more fun on my list, and this is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I've never read anything by Stephanie Garber because the Caraval series just doesn't appeal to me because so many people compare it to The Night Circus, which is a book I have an unpopular opinion about and didn't love. I love the idea of circus books, but I never actually liked them. So I was excited to be able to read something different from her, and so many people have said that this is just really accessible, so fast paced, just a good time, and the third book is coming out in October, so I feel like this is a good one to read before the end of the year, maybe during the holiday season or between Christmas and New Year's, where you have a lot of things going on, but they're still relaxing times, but you don't want anything too heavy. I find that time of the year difficult for reading, so maybe this one would be perfect for that. Is there a book that could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? I have a few. I don't think if any of these became my favorite of the year, I'd be shocked, because although I have a lot of books I absolutely adored that I've read so far in 2023, there's not one that I'm truly passionate about. I mean, I'm passionate about a lot of them, but I'm not like, this is an all-time favorite of all time. Nothing can ever beat this. I do think that these books that I'm going to talk about have the potential to become my new favorite. The first one is obviously This Cursed Light, I've already talked about, by Emily Thied, because I love the first book so much. And then two that I've talked about in this video that I mentioned have the potential to become favorites already are Daughter of the Forest and Kaikeyi. I just think these are my kind of books, and I would not be surprised if they end up on top of my list. But one that I haven't talked about yet, it's not actually out yet, it comes out in October, is The Scandalous Confessions of Lydia Bennet Witch. I honestly think in theory this should become my favorite book of the year, and if it's not, I will be very disappointed because it has two of my favorite things, Pride and Prejudice and witches. You put those things together, I should absolutely adore this. I hope the execution lives up to the potential of this for me, and I think Lydia Bennet is the most fascinating of the sisters. Of course, I myself am an Elizabeth, but I think that Lydia is scandalous, obviously, given this title, and fascinating, and I would love to hear her perspective. I think that this is kind of her memoir as she recalls the events of Pride and Prejudice from her perspective, and there's also witches, so yeah, in theory this should be my favorite. We will see, fingers crossed. And the last question is, have you already started making reading plans for 2024? I haven't personally made reading plans in terms of what I'm going to read. I always do that at the end of the year, and then I completely abandon all my plans. I think that is probably true for many of us. I haven't put too much thought into that yet, other than the typical things like reading more sequels and stuff like that, but I have been planning my 2024 new release videos. I have been putting together my list on Goodreads of 2024 releases. There are 115 plus books on there. I'm sure there are gonna be even more by the time this video actually goes up, because I add new ones, feels like almost every day, because we're getting a lot of announcements as we're heading towards the end of the year. And I will share a link to that Goodreads shelf down below if you're curious, but I pulled out 5 books coming out in 2024 that I really am excited about, and I just thought that this was a fun opportunity to put them on your radar. So the first one is A Letter to the Luminous Deep, and of course I saw this cover reveal and I was so excited I added it to that TBR immediately. It might be one of the first books that I added to that Goodreads shelf. The more I think about it, it might be the book that inspired me to start that shelf already in the first place, because it just looks adorable. I love books set underwater, I love cozy fantasy, but the thing that really sealed the deal for me is that this is being described as Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, but set underwater. Sounds perfect. I think it's also epistolary as far as I remember, so yeah, that just looks excellent. Then we have a sci-fi horror, you know, that's one of my favorite genres. This is Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes, who wrote Dead Silence, which I read earlier this year and I really liked it. It wasn't a perfect book, but there's a lot that I liked about it, and it's one of the books that made me realize how much I love this subgenre. So I'm excited that she has something new coming, and I'm already intrigued by the title, Ghost Station. That just sounds right up my alley. Django Wexler is an author who I discovered this year and really love. Ashes of Sun, spoiler, will be on my best books of 2023 list. So I loved when I saw this announcement, and it's called How to Become a Dark Lord and Die Trying, which sounds a bit more satirical and quirky than Ashes of the Sun, because Ashes of the Sun is not that at all. So this seems a little bit different than what I know Django Wexler to write, but I'm curious to see how he does it and if the humor lands for me, because that can be hit or miss, but I trust this author. I don't think I have to explain The Honey Witch to you. This is 100% a cover ad. This is one of the most beautiful covers ever. I want that art print. And The Honey Witch, it's a witch. I'm into it. Love the vibes of this. And the last one is a really exciting one. It is The Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and this is by the same author as The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This cover is so cute. Obviously it's witches, they own an inn. I love that setup already. There's a fox on the cover. So I already know that I'm gonna love this. I'm so excited about it, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well, because her first book was so hyped and so beloved, and deservedly so. So yeah, I can't wait for that. So those are 5 books coming out next year that I'm excited about. But again, there's 110 plus more on my Goodreads shelf for you to check out. So there you have it. That is my end of the year book tag. I would love to know your thoughts on any of my answers, how you would answer any of these questions. If you have posted this tag somewhere on your blog, on Instagram, on YouTube, let me know and I will check it out, because I just love this tag so much. Once again, thank you for your support. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.